John Fetterman.
Oh God, Shrek. Here we go.
Yeah. It's
what a disappointment, really. Like, I don't know what other word to use. I can't even think of like a joke or anything witty. It's like, what a disappointment.
Well, let me just say, when I joined this, when I started at TYT as an intern right out of college, one of the first things that we were doing in the first few months was going around Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and speaking to people about their disconnect from, democratic politics to a degree. And it was, I think, a little bit prescient given how the election turned out, just about what their feelings were. And when I did that, we got a real sense at that time of like, Hillary Clinton has very little support here. There's a lot of Trump signs in Michigan. There's a lot of Trump signs in Ohio and in Pennsylvania. And one of the first interviews that I helped book there was John Fetterman when he was mayor of Braddock. And in that time, he was like, it was a priority for us to interview this mayor, right? When I was doing production work, because he branded himself as a progressive, and he was this exciting progressive up and comer in Pennsylvania. So before he was even lieutenant governor, before he was even a candidate for the Senate, John Fetterman branded himself as a progressive. You can see in his campaign ads, in his tweets in the lead up to the Senate, comparing himself to Bernie Sanders, calling himself a progressive. Just search at John Fetterman or whatever his handle is and the word progressive, and you're going to find a crap ton. But now, he's one of the most aggressive pro-Israel hawks in the Senate and is actively eschewing the label of progressive, spitting in the face of the people that supported him. And people that, he fooled, I would say, as someone who analyzes candidates and wants there to be more leftist representation in Congress. Like, I was fooled. And I am completely flummoxed. And Tapper asks John Fetterman about this a bit, really to react to the New York Times Siena College polling showing how voters really under 29 disapprove heavily of Biden's handling of Israel's crimes in Gaza. And this is what Fetterman's answer is to that polling.
In the Democratic Party, particularly among young voters when it comes to Israel's war against Hamas. 72% of young voters, according to this new poll, disapprove of how President Biden is handling the Israel-Hamas war. You've been very vocal in your full support for Israel. I see the Israeli flag behind you in your office there. You've been very clearly arguing that Hamas bears responsibility for the tragedy of what's going on in Gaza. Why do you think so many younger people, especially in your party, see it differently?
I really don't know. I do know that a lot of people are getting their perspective from TikTok. And I think if you're kind of getting your perspective on the world on TikTok, it's going to tend to be kind of warped or not reflective of the history and actually the way things absolutely are. And what is very clear is that Hamas started this, and they actually broke the ceasefire, and they attacked and murdered babies, children, women, attacked a music concert and everything. It's outrageous. And from now on, it's been very clear that Israel would very much want there to be peace, but they've made it very clear that after October 7th, that's just not possible so long as Hamas is allowed to exist.
On immigration, which is a big issue going on in the Senate right now, you recently...
Just going to move on from that.
I mean, honestly, to me, like the immigration thing is honestly the biggest stab in the back. Like, okay, what else is new? A Democrat in the Senate supporting Israel. Even Bernie hasn't called for a ceasefire. But the immigration thing is just so unforgivable. What a stab in the back on the very basics of what makes Democrats different than Republicans on domestic policy issues, which is the whole thing we're told was so dangerous about Donald Trump and his immigration policy and putting babies in cages and then his own story, using his wife's story of being an undocumented immigrant coming with her family as a child to America from Brazil, and working for decades or whatever to become a citizen. Like, what a stab in the back. To me, honestly, the immigration thing is the ultimate, John Fetterman denial of being a progressive. Like, that is just gross. And for what though? The whole reason to do that is to get aid to Israel and aid to Ukraine. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, listen, I'm not someone who's anti-helping out Ukraine, although I'm opposite with Israel. I don't think we should be giving aid to Israel, but I don't think that any domestic policy issues, especially those affecting immigrants, should be on the line at all. People coming to this country, the very poorest and most marginalized people in society, they should not be thrown under the bus for aid to any foreign nation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well said. The stuff about TikTok, I just gotta, you're not the one that's informed about the history. You're not the one that's informed about the history. I have yet to see one of these, pro-Israel Zionist senators on the Democratic side, which is supposed to stand up for humanity and marginalized people. At least that's how they brand themselves, and we all know they have a long ways to go from achieving that ideal. But I have yet to see them acknowledge that, before October 7th, the deaths in the West Bank by settlers, the killing of Palestinians by settlers in the West Bank, it's been one of the deadliest years on record since the Second Intifada.
Hundreds of Palestinians killed prior this year prior to October 7th.
And you just need to look at simple charts of death tolls, of differences, and in how many Israelis die, who live in a very safe first world society for the most part. I mean, yes, there are incursions and there are rockets that sometimes get through the Iron Dome, but not that many. Really not that many. And
it was the position, I read this recently, it was the position of Netanyahu's government that, Hamas has to shoot those rockets just to have legitimacy with the people of Gaza. But they're not really, Israel wasn't too concerned about those rockets in any sort of serious manner. They just viewed it as something Hamas did so they looked legitimate in the eyes of Gazans.
I think that's accurate. I mean, and I think that that's true, right? Because like these rockets are not, Israel has the most precise and advanced weapons technology available to anybody, and that's because it's the top recipient of U.S. military aid. So they know exactly who they're killing every time they kill somebody. Precision-wise, or like when they target journalists' families, they have plausible deniability. They pretend that they do, but that's obviously not the case for many of these instances. And then when you carpet bomb such a densely populated area, you have an understanding of what you're doing. Like, I would rather people get their news from TikTok than get it from press releases sent to Senate offices by AIPAC, which is seemingly what John Fetterman does when he repeats these things over and over again that are completely ahistorical and wrong. So
John Fetterman had no problem setting up a TikTok account to get himself elected in 2022. I mean, TikTok is so bad and evil and no place for good information. Why were you on there telling kids to vote for you for Senate? Were you lying to them? Were they getting bad information? Maybe they were getting bad information from TikTok. If you were calling yourself a progressive on there, turns out they were getting bad information on TikTok. That's the only bad information on TikTok I know of, though, in this scenario.
Yeah.
He's not doing so hot on Twitter right now either. So, it's not just TikTok.
Well, isn't his campaign pay for another cameo from someone from New Jersey to like troll another senator or Dr. Oz or
George Santos?
It's so silly, and it's like the young voters are not going to forget your support for this genocide.
I do wonder what could happen though. Like he is a Democrat with a history in Pennsylvania. He'll be there for the next till 2028, right?
That's what makes this so bizarre is that he's not even campaigning.
Yeah, there seems to be like an actual ideological position that he holds. He's going like full bore, draped in the flag. I think to Matt's point, which I didn't let him finish, but I'm assuming I wonder if he's going to do a full heel turn to be like, Kirsten Sinema style, Joe Manchin style, like I'm just going to be obstinate on everything for the sake of it now. Or if not that it matters, but if this is going to be like his one issue that just mostly we, only hear about it when Israel continues to commit his genocide. I don't know. With the immigration thing, I'm tend to be leaning towards the full heel turn.
Yeah, that's what Matt said. Lek, before he's not here today, but he said that last week, and I think Sam and I were like, okay, sure, like that's a good thought. Well, I want a little bit more evidence, but the more evidence we get, the more I side with Matt on this. And what you're saying, Brandon, which it seems like this is a heel turn for some sort of like political longevity reasons, or an effort to make a larger pivot. I don't even know if he's trying to change the way that he's perceived for something even higher, like a presidential run in 2024. 2028.
But it's also going against the grain of it's going against the way the wind is blowing from even the electoral base. Like, it's not like he's making a smart decision. Like, it's not like poll after poll is showing that support among Democrats for Israel's campaign of bombing in Gaza is going up. It's been going further down every single new poll that comes out.
Exactly, though. But I think
and then the one issue you always hear from like even the most basic resistance anti-Trump libs, their number one concern with Trump is, or one of the number one concerns with Trump is the immigration issues, the border. They're worried about kids being put in cages and ripped from the arms of their family. They always bring that up.
But they don't bring it up when Biden does it. So it's very cynical. And just a quick point, Brandon, Biden's kind of making a similar calculation where he doesn't think that there's going to be electoral consequences for his support of Israel. He thinks that there's a lot of great deep pockets in favor of Israel, and that's the more important constituency to appeal to than the young kids on TikTok who don't know any better, because it's always the kids that are wrong. It's always the kids that are wrong.
But the weird thing is, like, these polls aren't showing like it's just like 18 to 24-year-olds. It's consistently everyone under the age of 50.
I hear you.
It's like the vast majority.
But are they going to vote on that? That's what the Democrats are thinking they won't. I mean, and I don't know what the reality is, but the calculation they're making is that that people won't care.
I mean, I know this will get a lot of shit with certain pockets on Twitter who think just because the economy is great, everyone's doing great, but. For a lot of people, Biden has been a failure in that aspect too. So it's not even like they can say, I don't agree with immigration or what's going on with Israel, but I'm doing good. So, and my family comes first, so I got to take care of them. There's a lot of people who can't say that, so they won't vote in that way.
It compounds itself with especially with voters under 50, when it comes time to remind everyone that their student loan debt payments are due again. Biden has failed on a few key promises that some people will point out are not the most important thing to them, but for certain pockets of the population, they're very important. I mean, how good can the economy really be doing when we're every 4 years on the precipice of a fascist takeover? How good can the economy be doing when I think still on average, most Americans don't have $500 in their savings? People's spending power might be up pretty well right now.
Homelessness is up 12%.
Yeah. It's a lot of the common metrics that economists use to determine the economy doing well just don't take into account how people actually view the economy in their lives and the impact of their lives. Can I continue to live with certainty at this level into the foreseeable future, which I think most people just can't really say in America. That's just the name of the game.
I agree with you. I mean, I think if Biden were smart, and I've been saying this, he would run on a national housing initiative of rent controls and building new housing and repealing the Fair Cloth Amendment so that public housing can get federal funding. But, he's seemingly not running really on any fucking thing. So I have no idea what's going on over there. I really do think that Jeff Zients coming in for Ron Klain has made a bigger impact than people realize on how completely inept the Biden administration has been over the past few months or so.